The air is still, thick with quiet. He sits alone, no tears, no shaking hands, no desperate movements. Just breath, slow, steady, deliberate. People mistake that calm for emptiness, but it isn't emptiness at all. It's containment. Inside him, storms rage, memories replay like echoes in a dark hall, the laughter, the betrayal, the love that promised forever and vanished overnight. But he doesn't reach for his phone, doesn't scroll through old pictures, doesn't whisper her name into the dark. He lets it all exist inside him, quietly, because he knows not everything broken needs to be fixed. Some things are meant to stay shattered so they don't cut him again. They called him cold once. Said he didn't care. Said he was made of stone. But they never understood that silence is how a man bleeds without showing scars. When he goes still, it's not because he's fine, it's because he's choosing not to drown in noise. He's been to that place before, the one where emotions eat you alive. The one where pride and pain wrestle until you don't know which one is real. He refuses to go back there. So now, he watches, he listens, he endures. Every second of silence is a battle fought and won. Every breath is a reminder that peace is earned, not given. He doesn't run from the ache, he studies it. Learns its rhythm. Learns when to breathe through it. That's what strength looks like, not explosions, not breakdowns, but quiet control. A man who can face chaos without speaking. A man who feels everything and still looks unshaken. That is his revolution, to stay calm in a world that demands noise. He has known emotion in its rawest form, the kind that burns through sleep and turns silence into noise. He's felt love in its highest, most intoxicating state, and he's felt it die without warning, leaving behind nothing but echoes. Every heartbeat reminds him of what once was, and every breath carries the weight of what he refused to say. But he doesn't break. He doesn't scream. He has learned that emotion, while powerful, is also deceptive. It promises connection but often delivers chaos. It seduces with warmth, then punishes with absence. And through it all, he stands still, not because he doesn't feel, but because he refuses to be consumed. He remembers the nights when he let himself fall apart, when tears felt like release, but only fed the wound deeper. That's when he understood, emotion without direction is destruction. It turns love into obsession, longing into weakness. So he taught himself to feel without falling, to bleed without anyone noticing. The weight is still there, pressing against his chest, but it no longer controls him. People think he's detached, but he's simply evolved. He no longer needs to prove his feelings through display. He doesn't chase validation or demand to be understood. His emotions exist beneath the surface, disciplined and quiet, like a river under ice. And even when the world tests his limits, he remains still, because he knows every reaction has a cost. He chooses not to pay with peace. That's his strength now, not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it. He carries the weight of emotion without letting it bend his spine, and that quiet resilience is what makes him unbreakable. He's not blind anymore. Once, he saw the world through the haze of hope, through promises dressed as truth, through words that sounded like forever. Now, his vision is sharp, stripped of illusion. He sees what people hide behind their smiles, the need to be wanted, the fear of being alone, the quiet manipulation and kindness that comes with conditions. He's learned that most affection is transactional, that love, when spoken too loudly, often hides something weaker underneath. That awareness didn't make him bitter, it made him awake. Awake to the truth that not everyone who touches you deserves to. Awake to the fact that some "I miss you" messages are really just nostalgia for control. He no longer blames anyone for pretending. Pretending is human. What's divine is the ability to see through it and stay composed. He watches the games play out, the subtle power shifts, the emotional tests, the words meant to provoke a reaction. But he no longer gives anyone the privilege of pulling his strings. His silence unnerves them now. His calm becomes a mirror that forces them to face themselves. They can't read him anymore, and that unsettles them. Awareness has become his shield. He doesn't need closure because truth already gave it to him. He doesn't chase clarity because he's learned that confusion is often deliberate. He understands that seeing clearly means losing illusions, but he welcomes that loss. It's the price of peace. He doesn't see love as escape anymore, he sees it as reflection. And when reflection shows pain, he doesn't turn away. He looks deeper. Because once a man truly sees, he can never be deceived again, and that, more than anything, is what makes him powerful. They say he's distant, but distance is how he keeps his balance. He's been through the fire before, the kind that burns from the inside out, where every emotion demands attention, every memory claws for space. He's learned that letting everything spill only feeds the chaos. So he practices stillness. Not as a mask, but as a discipline. The same way a blade is sharpened through friction, he sharpens himself through control. He knows what happens when feelings run wild, how they twist your judgment, make you say things you can't unsay, make you chase things that aren't meant for you. He refuses to be led by that kind of weakness again. Every morning, he wakes with the same quiet vow: no one gets to dictate his peace. Not the past, not the echoes, not the ghosts that linger in the corners of memory. When emotions rise, he doesn't suppress them, he studies them, dissects them, drains their power until they can't move him. It's not coldness, it's precision. He knows that true composure is not pretending to feel nothing, but choosing when and how to feel everything. When the world shouts at him to react, he responds with silence. When people provoke him, he meets them with stillness. That's his rebellion, calmness as defiance. The old version of him would have broken, tried to prove his heart, tried to explain his pain. Now, he understands that not every emotion deserves an audience. Sometimes, strength is quiet. Sometimes, control is compassion for yourself. He no longer wastes energy proving his worth through emotion. His restraint is his proof. His calm is his voice. And that quiet discipline, that steady, unshaken center, is what makes him untouchable. Control, to him, is not about denial, it's about direction. It's the ability to take what once broke him and turn it into power. He's learned that feelings are energy, and energy can either destroy or define. There was a time when love made him restless, when he poured everything out, hoping someone would understand the language of his sincerity. But now he understands, not everyone can hold what's real. So he no longer gives it freely. He channels it. Every ounce of emotion, every surge of memory, becomes fuel, not for revenge, but for rebuilding. His silence is no longer emptiness, it's a reservoir of strength waiting for purpose. When anger rises, he doesn't lash out. When sadness whispers, he doesn't collapse. He absorbs both and transforms them into focus. The world mistakes his restraint for weakness, but restraint is what keeps him steady when everything around him shakes. He's seen men lose everything chasing validation. He's seen hearts crumble because they mistook reaction for power. He refuses that fate. He's learned that the strongest man is not the loudest one in the room, but the one who can hold his fire and wait for the right moment to speak. His control is not a wall, it's armor. It doesn't shut people out, it simply filters who gets close. He no longer fights to be understood, because understanding himself is enough. His power is quiet, deliberate, unyielding. He doesn't chase peace anymore, he maintains it. Every decision, every pause, every measured breath reminds him that mastery isn't about dominating others, it's about ruling the storm within. And in that calm, he becomes something rare, a man unshaken by the noise of the world. He walks away now, not out of pride, but out of clarity. There was a time when he would have stayed, arguing, explaining, pleading to be understood. But understanding, he's learned, isn't something you beg for, it's something you give yourself. Detachment came slowly, not as a wall built overnight, but as a quiet realization repeated through pain: not everyone is meant to stay, and not every connection deserves to be revived. So when he leaves, it's not from anger, it's from acceptance. He doesn't slam doors or burn bridges, he simply stops standing in places that drain him. He no longer mistakes intensity for meaning. He's felt that before, the chaos disguised as passion, the endless cycle of leaving and returning that felt like love but was really addiction. He's free from that now. His detachment isn't coldness, it's freedom from emotional captivity. He understands that caring deeply doesn't mean clinging desperately. Love doesn't need to be proven through suffering. Sometimes the most powerful form of love is to release quietly, without resentment, without the need to be right. They say he's changed, that he feels nothing. But that's the thing, he feels everything, just differently. He no longer reacts from impulse. His emotions don't demand attention anymore, they flow and fade naturally. He doesn't block people out, he simply stops chasing what disturbs his peace. That's how he's learned to move, calm, deliberate, unbothered. He leaves not because he's empty, but because he's full of lessons, full of self-respect, full of the kind of peace that no apology can offer. In detachment, he's found strength. In silence, he's found freedom. He no longer needs closure, he became it. Out of the quiet, something begins to grow within him, slow, deliberate, alive. It's not the old kind of hope that depends on someone's presence or promise. It's a different kind of light, born from acceptance. He no longer searches for meaning in others, he builds it from within. The emptiness that once felt unbearable has transformed into space to breathe, to rebuild, to rediscover. Every scar now feels like a map, guiding him toward understanding rather than regret. The pain that once made him curse his past now serves as a teacher, showing him that growth rarely feels gentle. He doesn't rush to fill the silence anymore. He lets it speak. In the absence of noise, he hears his own voice again, quiet, grounded, honest. That's rebirth, realizing you were never broken, only rearranged. He sees beauty in solitude, not as isolation but as alignment. He understands that being alone isn't the same as being lonely, it's the state where a man meets his truest self. He no longer measures strength by resistance but by recovery. Every day he wakes up, calm instead of angry, grateful instead of bitter, and that shift, subtle, consistent, is what power really looks like. The world no longer dictates his rhythm. He moves at his own pace, no longer reacting, just responding. He forgives not to forget, but to move freely. He no longer carries the weight of what could have been. He's lighter now, not because he's lost something, but because he's released it. Out of everything that tried to break him, he's built something unshakable, peace. And from that peace, he rises, quietly reborn, stronger than he's ever been. Forgiveness didn't come to him easily. It wasn't a single moment of clarity, but a slow surrender over countless nights of thinking, remembering, and letting go. At first, forgiveness felt like weakness, as if releasing the pain meant excusing what happened. But with time, he understood it differently. Forgiveness wasn't for them, it was the final gift he gave to himself. It meant he no longer allowed his past to dictate his peace. It meant that the story no longer owned him. He could look back without burning inside. That realization changed everything. He doesn't carry resentment anymore. It takes too much energy, and he's learned that bitterness is just a cage built by the one who refuses to heal. So he opens his hands and lets the memories drift away, no longer clinging to the idea of what should have been. He sees people differently now, not as villains or victims, but as humans shaped by their own wounds. Everyone is fighting something unseen, and that truth softens him. He doesn't excuse their choices, but he understands their humanity. There's a calmness that lives in him now, the kind that can't be faked. He can stand face to face with what once broke him and feel nothing but peace. No anger. No longing. Just understanding. That's the quiet power of release, when your heart finally stops arguing with your mind. He smiles more now, not because everything is perfect, but because he no longer needs it to be. Forgiveness gave him space to breathe again, to love again, to live again. And in that gentle understanding, he's found something deeper than closure, he's found freedom. He doesn't cry anymore, not because he's numb, but because he's learned to process pain without drowning in it. His tears have turned into understanding, his silence into strength. He's walked through enough chaos to know that emotions don't need to be displayed to be real. Once, he believed that showing pain proved authenticity, that breaking down meant he still cared. But now he knows that the truest care is quiet, steady, unwavering, the kind that exists without needing to be witnessed. The world taught him that vulnerability is noble, but life taught him that peace is sacred. So he chose peace, even when it meant appearing detached. He stands differently now, grounded, composed, no longer pulled by tides of emotion or opinion. The same situations that once would have shattered him now pass like wine through open hands. He understands that control isn't about dominance, it's about harmony with oneself. He's not resisting his feelings, he's guiding them, shaping them into purpose. His stillness is no longer defense, it's wisdom. It's the calm that comes after understanding the difference between reaction and response. He has become the man who doesn't need to cry to feel deeply. His compassion no longer weakens him, it fuels him. His love no longer consumes him, it balances him. And his pain no longer defines him, it refines him. He doesn't seek validation in being seen, he finds it in being centered. That's what strength has become, not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. He's not heartless, he's healed. And in that healing, he's found something unshakable, a quiet kind of power, one that doesn't need to shout to be known. He's not broken anymore. He's whole.